All right, everyone, welcome back into another Prize Picks and Underdog video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets in NBA today. We'll be coming out with a separate NFL video. But first, let's go ahead and get into a recap of yesterday. So starting with more of the sportsbook slip that I kind of mentioned to you guys, these were bets where I felt that they were being undervalued by the sportsbooks out there. And I kind of mentioned these would be better individual bets, really tilting that Jordan Hawkins didn't get any rebounds because this was bumped to 4 by lineup lock. So very annoying in that sense. But all in all, if you guys had bet these on the individual sportsbooks, you were net profit on there, and which is why I'm calling these out. Let's make that clear. Like I feel like I echoed this home very well yesterday and the previous day when they went 3 for 5. Is that I think it's worthwhile. I think there's enough people out there that are placing these bets on individual sports books, and that was just part of the annoyance yesterday. Is that it seemed like yesterday we were getting just a lack of bets that correlated with what I was expecting on the day. And like here is kind of a good example of that, guys. Now it was weird. Jakob Poeltl only played 21 minutes. That's been the annoyance with him as a really bet thus far this season. Grant Williams had himself a bad game. That was a little bit shocking. What was annoying though is that I mentioned you could add Tyrese Maxey into this one. I hope some people did that because for some reason the Philadelphia 76ers prop lines have been just low this season. I don't get what's going on. I mentioned Maxey would be one in which I would be betting on. I did do that in a game stack. GameStack went 5 for 6, tilting there. And then looking at these two were basically locks to me. I shouldn't say locks. I hate using that word, but definitely undervalued. But again, the data wasn't exactly saying that. So I don't know if it's just like early season stuff that's going on, but it's just, it was a weird slate where bets like these two, where I'm like, these are clear-cut values, and the data wasn't seeing it that way. And I was just like, why are we getting these lines so low? Same thing with Tobias Harris and Maxey. It's just strange. And then yesterday, this was the other slip that I had ran out. Now, I did mention like this one is one you could cross off and use Trevor Moore in. So I'm wondering if anybody took that advice. That was the good EV bet there. I thought PJ Washington would be in for a better game than that. And all in all, I feel like that was the correct call. He just started the game out so terrible shooting the basketball. And that's basically why they got blown out. The two best bets on the day, Brandon Miller under fantasy score, Daniel Gafford under fantasy score, did hit. And that's where if you guys are going through the advice and just like, those are the two best bets, I want to bet those by all means. And so hockey props go 2 for 3 on the day. All in all, with how ugly the last 2 days have been, I'm fine with it. Like we knew yesterday would be the kind of a strange day, and it was. Today is slightly a little bit better as a whole, and I want to start out with some EV bets that we have. So starting with football, we are getting a decent amount of good props thus far. I don't know if you guys want to use these ones, but Cole Kmet for over fantasy score. I'll touch on this on a separate NFL video. Bryce Young for over fantasy score. If there's ever going to be a game in which he does well, it should be against this Bears defense. And in a weird way, this is one of the few Thursday night football slates that I'm actually looking forward to, just because it's two very similar bad teams, and at least our expectations for the game are a little bit lower. Thus, I think it's going to exceed our expectations. We're getting Miles Sanders as a decent prop bet at over 9.5. Hayden Hurst, same thing, where it's being undervalued currently. I want to call it this one though. Jordan Hicks for over his tackles and assists. This is for Minnesota, but seemingly a decent one there. In terms of NHL props, we are getting 4 pretty good ones as it sits right now. All 3 of these for over assists are currently being undervalued, and we can see Dylan Larkin. Some of the average sportsbook lines are giving it probably at 1, and then they're favoring the under pretty heavily there. But all in all, a seemingly decent prop bet, and that's why I just want to call this out. That's why the over is so low, is because some of the sportsbooks are saying that he's going to get 1, and then same thing here as well. Whereas if we look at kind of a normal line where all the sportsbooks are saying 0.5 for Stamkos, we can see that is a 54% likelihood to hit. Okay. And then Matthew is for over 0.5 points. So a couple of good EV bets to start the day. Then I do just want to call this one for Tommy Tremble in terms of a discrepancy, and Hayden Hurst. So if you guys think that they're not going to get their over receiving yards, that is fine. You can bet the under then on Underdog, where 9.5 on Underdog, 7.5 on PrizePicks for Tommy Tremble, and then also for Hayden Hurst, 17.5 to 14.5. So I just like calling those out because that's seemingly a decent edge. But now we go ahead and get into NBA directly here, guys. We have a small 2-game slate. Okay, we got the Bucks versus the Pacers, and my biggest question mark for this game is, are they going to have someone random sit? Because it is the back end of a back-to-back, and they are going against the Pacers. Now, I know the spread isn't saying that they're going to win or anything like that, or blow them out, I should say. It's only a 3-point spread. Very high-scoring game. Chris Middleton was someone that sat out yesterday, just because I think it was the front end of a back-to-back, and that's kind of why I'm wondering if someone will sit out on the back end of a back-to-back. Looking at the Hawks versus Magic, kind of another appealing game and potentially stacking. 3.5 point spread, 231 for the over and under. We can see injury-wise for the Hawks, nothing too significant there. For the Magic, we know Gary Harris is out, and really this slate is going to depend on whether or not Markelle Fultz sits. He is currently a game time decision. We have seen Jalen Suggs has been a big beneficiary there with him off the court, and I think we would roll with that again. Wendell Carter is going to be out in this game. He's out with a finger injury. And for what it's worth, I'll pull up the projected starting lineups here. We can see Middleton is expected to play. And then for Orlando, they currently have him, Markelle Fultz, slotted into the starting position. We do see Jalen Suggs is expected to start, though. Tough to say for sure what that will mean, but let's go ahead and break it down. So let's go ahead and start out with the Milwaukee Bucks props. I do find it interesting. Like, this team has been a team that, honestly, I'm a Bucks fan, and I found it very hard to kind of predict on a per night basis what was going to happen. And like, really, last year they were kind of a sweet spot for me. And I do think that it's just a chemistry thing with Damian Lillard, with Giannis, trying to figure that out, as well as kind of the other options in there. Brook Lopez. It's tough to predict which kind of role player is going to go off. Jay Crowder and Malik Beasley had themselves a good game last game. Brook Lopez, it's whether or not he really gets the ball, and then whether or not he's making some 3-ball attempts. Bobby Portis has been kind of consistent, but all in all, they have been more difficult to predict. Now, today is a day in which, given this game against the Pacers, you would expect both of them to go off. And if you guys saw the highlights from yesterday, Giannis was someone that got a strange 2 technical foul call. The refs wanted to be the moment, if you will. They wanted to make themselves part of the game. He's going to be pretty mad, I would say. I think he's going to be very motivated to play well. If you guys just search it up on Twitter, you're gonna see like just how frustrated he was, and it was soft. Like, I don't really get it. He kind of flexed on someone after a dunk, typical NBA stuff. And for me, as someone that probably should be the face of the league, like, I don't think they do that to LeBron. It's just weird stuff there. But yeah, I mean, guys, he has been playing better as of recent. I mean, it's not the biggest sample size, but we see the last 2 games been playing extremely well, especially in terms of a point per minute basis. Really went off against Brooklyn. Against Detroit was certainly going off, and this is an even easier matchup. So again, I am struggling here because I want to be betting the over at 42.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Now, I'm hoping we get a better fantasy score prop for that, which we are not getting just yet. Oh, it's at 44.5. Okay, that actually changed it a little bit, but we see on a points per minute basis here, like he gets like 13 more minutes in that game. And so I do think he would have had a good chance to get the over there. But again, the only way I think we're able to get to this is if we're running out of game stack and we're just betting on the Pacers keeping it close. And then for what it's worth, we got Damian Lillard. This one is definitely interesting as well. He is someone that when Giannis left the game, instead of having the backseat role that he had, he definitely stepped up into a bigger role. Now, he is someone that on the season has not shot the basketball well. And typically speaking, I like to target those guys, but like good shooters that are just due to start shooting the basketball better. But man, it's been annoying there. 2 for 12, 2 for 8 from 3. Like, come on. And again, in this matchup, you would think that he would do better in that department. The assists haven't exactly been there. And so for me, I'm wondering if we could do like a points prop for Lillard instead. Let's see what that's at for him. Points and assists, possibly at 32.5. I don't mind that. 25.5 for his points does seem low. It's basically averaging that thus far this season. And again, like, he did get a higher usage rate with Giannis off the court, and Chris Middleton was off the court. He's expected back. Chris Middleton has been extremely efficient thus far. And honestly, if Middleton gets more minutes in this game, like they have kind of started to give him 21 minutes, yeah, I guess I could see why it's being valued that way. So get 3 balls made. Not terrible. Yeah, I guess just Lillard for over points, Giannis for over points, rebounds, and assists. But again, that's probably just a game stack. And then, guys, we aren't currently getting any props for the Pacers unless it's those combo props. So let's just talk through it. Like, Halliburton has been someone that has been going off. I worry that the Bucks could just dominate in this game. Halliburton is going to seemingly get a good matchup going against Dame Lillard, but I worry that after several good games in a row, that his prop line that we're going to get just for any of them is going to be too high. Now, he is someone as well, hasn't exactly been shooting the basketball all too well from 3-ball land. And so I'm wondering if we do want to chase this combo prop for those two. Just shoot the basketball better, guys, from 3-ball range, right? But still, that feels a little bit too thin. Bennedict Mathurin finally had himself a good game. Last game, he had been someone that had been struggling. He was someone I thought would kind of take the next step. Really went off in that game. Tough to rely on that happening again. Buddy Hield has been someone that really hasn't been getting minutes thus far this season. Bruce Brown has been getting minutes thus far this season, but not really doing too much with it. It's tough to really rely on him. Jalen Smith finally had himself a good game last game as well. He's actually been pretty consistent thus far the last couple of games, so I don't know if I really want to attack anyone going against Milwaukee's bigs, specifically Miles Turner, who I expect to struggle in this game. He is someone that he hasn't been getting minutes, like just not enough minutes to really trust him. And I'm not exactly sure why. Any Pacers fans out there know why? Obviously, blowout, and I'm guessing that's why. But he hasn't gotten over 30 minutes really consistently at all thus far this season. So weird stuff there. We go ahead and move on into the next game, which to me hopefully will be a little bit easier to predict. Let's start with Orlando. So we are seeing a lot of props for Jalen Suggs are currently being valued as bets where we should be looking at the over, whether it's points or points and assists. And let's just start with that. Suggs here is going to be dependent on whether or not Markelle Fultz sit. And I say that because with just Gary Harris off the court, like Suggs is gaining a lot of minutes. It actually goes Wagner, Banchero, who are just gaining a ton of minutes, and then Suggs. So I do think we can project him to get those minutes. And then on a per 36 production rate, he does average 13.5 points, 7.2 rebounds, which is crazy, and then 4.3 assists. So already there, we could kind of be seeing that. Now, let's point out with Suggs that I don't think we can project him to get 36 minutes. Like, that's the issue. Now, blowout, foul trouble. I believe foul trouble in this game as well. And so it's tough to kind of say what we should expect from him, but he is someone that is getting multiple blocks and steals as well. And that is echoed in the per 36 production. So I do think he does become a better play if someone like Fultz does sit, because then we look at his usage rate and everything. Usage rate actually goes down. Actually, the points go down with Fultz off the court, which is weird. You wouldn't expect that. And I think that's just echoed in the weird sample size that we have here. Like, there's not a lot of minutes going into this, like 24 minutes, 23 minutes, 21 minutes. And that's shown when I'm looking at this data. And I'm actually curious, what are his minutes? 25 minutes. So, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he would get more minutes if Markelle Fultz sits. And seemingly his role shouldn't change too much if Fultz does play. So he does feel kind of safe. Just need to get more minutes from him. What's interesting is the points, rebounds, and assist prop is being favored for the under. I would probably be betting the over there, hoping that he gets more minutes. And then we also see Wagner for under, rebounds and assists. Not exactly one I want to go with. We see Banchero for over, rebounds and assists, whatever there. Wagner, I want to touch on this one. So we got to look at the production with Gary Harris off the court and Wendell Carter off the court, because Wendell Carter is out in this game again. So I think the expectation is that Goga is going to start at center. He is. Jonathan Isaac, game time decision, expected to play though. Interesting there. But Wagner and Banchero have been two players that have been playing a ton of minutes. And so if this game is going to stay close like Vegas is thinking, I would imagine he's going to get closer to 38 minutes. And he is someone that on a per 36 basis does average 19.8 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 3.1 assists with Gary Harris and Wendell Carter off the court. So seemingly to me, his points, rebounds, and assist prop is a little bit too low. I don't know if you guys are worried about the matchup with Atlanta. I'm not really worried about it. It's about a middle of the road matchup. And then looking at Banchero here, might get an easy matchup. He is someone that they have just been getting the minutes regardless, seemingly. I do wonder if Jonathan Isaac being back will change that at all. Probably not. Looking at him, he does average 23.3 points per 36 with Wendell Carter off the court, 5.6 rebounds, and then 7.3 assists. So he has been someone that has been going off on a per 36 basis, and I like that. The per 36 stats for those two, because I think we can accurately project them to get those minutes. And actually, let's take a peek at that. 32. Again, I think if it stays close, he's going to get more than that. And then let's just look at Banchero there, 34. So again, guys, very limited slate. We're probably just looking at some game stacks if possible. And right now, without having the fantasy score ones, and not having enough news, I'm probably looking at Suggs over, Banchero over, and probably Wagner as well. Doesn't feel great. Let's see his points one for Wagner. Yeah, that's tight. And so again, guys, we typically want to be rolling with bets that have a 54% likelihood to hit her, and we're not really getting too much of that just yet. Now let's go ahead and get into the Atlanta Hawks here. So the nice thing about the Atlanta Hawks is we don't really have to worry about any injury news just yet, and so we should seemingly be getting some good props, and the line should be kind of true. Now the first one I wanted to roll with today was actually looking at DeJounte Murray for over 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists. We can see that is not a good bet though. And so my next thought was, well, we can do DeJounte Murray for over 21.5 points. Again, not a good bet. Both the unders are being favored there. And the reason I was thinking about rolling with those is because he has been extremely consistent thus far this season. This isn't a matchup that I'm really worried about. And the shot attempts for the most part have been there, but the issue with the Hawks is it can be a little bit sporadic, like 14, 17, 12, 24 great there, 15 not great, 20 and 16. A lot of his production does depend on whether he's hitting a three ball or not, and we're not getting any props for that. So I don't mind the points prop. Does feel like we'd probably be forcing it a little bit. He has been a little bit more consistent than Trae Young. Trae Young, you would say, is someone that's probably due to have a good night shooting as well. He is someone that has been struggling with the three ball as well. So we have a lot of interesting spots for guys that have been struggling to shoot the basketball, and maybe you could be looking at Trae Young over three balls made if that comes out, but it's definitely a weird slate. Now he has been getting a ton of assists, We can see that. So I'm actually curious, are we getting any good prop lines for him with assists? Rebounds and assists, we're actually seeing the under. Great. Assists for over at 10. That's such a high number. Yeah, I'm probably not touching that. An annoying slate. Again, let's take a peek at the Clint Capella one, because that's seemingly one of the better ones on the slate, as well as the turnovers. So let's take a peek at that, and then DeJounte Murray turnovers. So Clint Capella to me should get a little bit easier matchup going against Goga and Mo Wagner, and maybe Banchero as well, kind of operating in the center. Without Wendell Carter, it should be an easier matchup for him. And we know with Clint Capella and Yika Okonkwo, both of them are pretty good point per minute producers. The issue is that both of them have not been getting those minutes. So it's very tilting. Like if we knew for sure Capella was going to get 30 minutes, we'd be rolling with him. And let's actually take a peek at his minutes. And even at 19, no, we're not getting any projected minutes just yet for him. Actually, we are. The data that I'm pulling it in from has his full name, which is the toughest part about NBA. I'll get that corrected after this video. So he's projected to get 28 minutes, which if he does get 28 minutes, yeah, he's going to crush that over at 19.5. Like he should be able to crush that over in this matchup. But again, seems like a better individual sports book bet than what we have. And again, guys, look at this. I like the timing of these videos, because typically speaking, we'll get these props. Crazy that Clint Capella's fantasy score is that much higher than his points, rebounds, and assists. They are banking on him getting some blocks and steals with that. And so if he does get 30 minutes, I do think he has a good chance to get that over fantasy score at 26. Let's see Wagner there. He is someone that's been, getting some blocks and steals. Jalen Suggs, I do like this over. If Markelle Fultz sits, I do think he's going to be able to get there. He's been averaging like 2 steals per game. DeAndre Hunter, I don't want to touch there. Banchero, it's weird that he's been going off. That's a weird line. DeJounte Murray, I do like for the over fantasy score there. That seems too low. Jalen Johnson, let's take a peek at Jalen Johnson, guys. So Jalen Johnson has definitely stepped up thus far this season, and he is very much dependent on his minutes, but I think it kind of just looks like he should be getting around 30 to 36 minutes. Like they want to get him some minutes, and so if we can project him to get 30 minutes, if this game stays close, I do think this line that we're getting for his fantasy score is probably a little bit too low, but probably one that we're just looking in a game stack. Then Bogdanovich has been playing some more minutes. Now, when he gets on the court, he is shooting the basketball a ton, has been getting some steals and some blocks as well, which that's why we're getting this high of a fantasy score. And I feel like this is the best game where we could kind of just like blindly stack like Bojan for over, or Bogdanovich for over fantasy score, Jalen Johnson over fantasy score, DeJounte Murray over fantasy score, and then Suggs over fantasy score, maybe Banchero, maybe Clint Capella, and then Wagner over fantasy score. Like we could blindly trust that. I do want to refresh the data on my end to see if we're getting any better props. We have some more populating in there, so let's take a peek at that. And all right, interesting here. So Jalen Johnson, where I said, if the minutes are there, if he gets 36 minutes, he should be able to get the over. No, the data is like, no, he's going to get the under. So I might just roll with that. Again, annoying, right? That was one that I thought would be a good edge. The data say no. Jalen Suggs, though, it is agreeing with, again, for I think the third straight slate, so that's nice. Trae Young over 42 for a fantasy score. That's what I need to take a peek at, because that's extremely interesting. I guess, if he does shoot the basketball a little bit better in this game, you would expect him to get the over. I would have thought DeJounte Murray would have been the better over fantasy score, because his line is low and he's been super consistent. And man, I think if the game stays close, he is the one that gets the over there. And I'm just refreshing this, just showing it by fantasy score. Typically speaking, guys, those are going to be the ones where we get the biggest edge, as we can see. Banchero, they're expecting under. DeAndre Hunter under. I probably agree with that. Clint Capella, we are seeing slightly favored for the over. So let's say we are trying to game stack this game, then we can toss in these 3 for the over, since the data correlates that. And then if you guys want to, so like it'd be Jalen Suggs, Trae Young over, and then these 3 over for correlated stacks with that. Jalen Johnson projected to get 28 minutes. That just seems too like loose of a projection. Like we don't know for sure what he's going to get. I think, I don't want to go against the data, but I think probably Suggs, Trae Young would be the better one. And just for what it's worth, guys, like the minutes projection has nothing to do with the average sportsbook line or the projected data that's going in there. I am working on for those that were here last year, I had kind of what the prop line would be based off of their projected minutes as well. And that would just be another thing I would add in here. I just want more of a sample size. Like that'd be something that I'll probably add in next month once we have, a lot more games under our belt. All right, so here's what I'd be looking at for kind of a bet of the day today. Suggs should be able to get his over fantasy score here. I hope that he gets a little bit more run in this game. Fultz being in or out shouldn't really change his production too much. But again, then it becomes kind of a 3-guard rotation. At the same time, Anthony Black, who had been someone that had been getting some minutes, probably won't get those minutes. So Suggs should be secure to get 25 or so minutes. If that occurs, he should be able to get the over here. The Trae Young one is Definitely one that I personally wouldn't have saw coming, but it does make some sense that the data likes the over here. Just given the fact that one, we saw Suggs was likely to get some turnovers. That helps, probably Trae Young. But two, he hasn't really exactly shot the basketball well. And typically speaking, with players like that, you do expect him to start to shoot the basketball a little bit better. Jalen Johnson was one that I personally probably didn't like that much to bet the less than fantasy score props. I'm going to trust the data there. Weird part of the season, right? And then just going with the football props. These are two of the best ones seemingly on the slate. Data thinks so I'm going to roll with that. Pretty much they're saying I think Bryce Young is going to score a passing touchdown, and that's probably why this is being favored for the over. Cole Kmet had himself a freaking awesome catch last week in the end zone. It's weird, like the team gets a little bit of upgrade with Tyson Bagent at quarterback in terms of like maybe not DJ Moore, but everyone else does. And then I went with Stamkos. I think that is the best NHL prop. We saw other ones in there as well. You could do this one for over points instead. That's also a decent one. But that's going to be all for this video. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell as well to get those good EV bets at the start of the video. I typically try to start out the video with those if we have them. But that's going to be all for this video. If you guys want access to that tool, the NBA cheat sheet, as well as all the other ones, click the link in the description below. It is available for just $10 a month. Let's have a good slate today. And as always, let's keep cashing.